Hello, and welcome to my Technical Communications course portfolio for TWC 490. My name is Juan Botello, and I'll be demonstrating how I've met the program outcomes during my time in the Technical Communications program here at ASU by sharing some of my work. I'll be focusing on three pieces of my work, which I'll refer to as artifacts. Looking back at these projects, each of them required me to think differently about my work, touching on all of the program outcomes. The three projects I've selected are a set of technical instructions created for young children, a storytelling timeline portfolio, as well as a brochure. Each of these three artifacts require different skills to complete successfully. The technical communications program outcomes are broken up into four categories. These categories are rhetorical knowledge, critical thinking, reading and writing, processes, and knowledge of conventions. Each of these categories contains 5 to 9 outcomes which knowledge of needs to be demonstrated in order to complete the technical communications program. Let's begin with the rhetorical knowledge set of outcomes. During my storytelling timeline, I demonstrated I could identify, articulate, and focus on a defined purpose. This purpose was to create a timeline showing how storytelling had evolved over time. Beginning in ancient Egypt, I moved forward in time to present day. I responded to the need of my appropriate audience. Since my timeline was targeted to middle school children, I included images and tried to connect to them using examples they could relate to. I also created a game of Jeopardy as a quiz to take after the presentation, demonstrating the ability to write in multiple genres. The inclusion of the game also helped me demonstrate another outcome. By demonstrating, I understood the role a variety of technology and media had in retrieving, managing, and communicating information. For the remaining rhetorical knowledge program outcomes, I'll use a set of technical instructions to demonstrate I've met them. These instructions were very simple and intended for young children and their parents. I showed my understanding of how each genre helps to shape writing and how readers respond to it here by learning that instructions required action verbs and using them throughout my work. The use of this type of language could come off as aggressive to some. This required me to meet another program outcome by adapting my voice in the use of action verbs, as well as my tone and level of formality for my audience. Instructions have been around a long time, and with that comes a format that is expected. Following a specific format, I am able to use conventions of format and structure appropriate to the rhetorical situation, which is another outcome. The format I followed required I include a parts list, warning, as well as a clear image of each step. The photos I use to clearly show each step to children and their parents. This required I use my digital camera to take clear images and place them into my instructions. Due to the resolution of my camera, the pictures were very large files. I demonstrated the final rhetorical knowledge outcome showing I understood how to use appropriate technologies to organize, present, and communicate information to address a range of audiences, purposes, and genres. By transforming my photos and reducing the file size, then organizing them in a way that easily communicated my message to the audience. I'd like to address the critical thinking, reading, and writing outcomes in somewhat of an untraditional manner. I'll be addressing these outcomes with a mostly visual project, a brochure I created showing a variety of dining options at Chase Field. The first program outcome, use, information, writing, and reading for inquiry, learning, thinking, and communicating, was met early in the project. I had to question past experiences I had at Chase Field to communicate my message. This led to the second outcome, understand the research, and writing is a series of tasks including accessing, retrieving, evaluating, analyzing, and synthesizing appropriate data and information from sources that vary in content, format, structure, and scope. I conducted secondary research by searching online for different options the Diamondbacks offered at home games. I then used my secondary research to fuel primary research when I attended a Diamondbacks home game and explored the different options they offered. This required I analyze all of my research to continue with my brochure. The research I conducted allowed me to realize what different demographics are targeted by the Diamondbacks. I used this realization to shape which options I would use. I used the Audi Quattro Lounge, a trendy bar targeting young adults, Friday's Front Row, a family dining option, and finally the Arizona Baseball Club, an upscale dining experience targeted at older crowds. This met another objective: understanding the relationship among language, knowledge, and power, including social, cultural, historical, and economic issues related to information, writing, and technology. I had to communicate my message to individuals with different social, economical, and cultural backgrounds. I now had to integrate previously held beliefs, assumptions, and knowledge with new information and the ideas of others into my writing by creating a brochure which I felt like was appropriate for a variety of audiences. Once I was able to do so, I met the final outcome in recognizing, understanding, and analyzing the context within language, information, and knowledge produced, managed, organized, and disseminated. Everything I had communicated was in efforts to target a variety of specific demographics had all come together. The next set of outcomes are the process's outcomes. All of my projects required multiple drafts, none more than the storytelling timeline portfolio, which required 3 iterations to see it evolve into the final product. My idea of what the final project would be changed with each iteration. As I tried fitting my original idea into the timeline, I found roadblocks that made it more difficult. Here I learned that the writing is an open process, and I had to reinvent my ideas as I revised my work. The timeline also required I develop research and writing strategies appropriate to the context and situation. I was telling a story myself that spanned a large range of time, targeting young teens. This required I keep my writing short and to the point. I also began to realize my original idea was not appropriate for what I was trying to convey. I had to become flexible in how I continued my work. I also used this to become a better peer reviewer. Instead of focusing on the idea my classmates originally had, I offered suggestions to modify their work. The peer review process served as a valuable lesson as I had to learn how to better critique others' work. Since I offer some classmates they go in a different direction, I was aware not everyone would be fond of this idea. Once I offered the critique to my classmates, I reviewed what they had to say about my own work. I was able to gain information from their peer review and apply them to my own work. Once I reviewed the comments and suggestions made, I understood advantages that could come out of allowing others to come up with ideas. The final outcome was met when I combined all the research I had conducted with the feedback of my peers into my timeline and the Jeopardy game. This was a process, and it wasn't complete until my final iteration, which showed how my work had all come together. The final set of outcomes is knowledge of conventions. Each of my projects addressed these outcomes in some way. Together, I used each project to learn how to format for different genres. I learned the standard tools for each genre, from Googling and searching through academic databases to conducting primary research. Each project required something different. I needed to be aware of copyright and trade law when conducting my primary research. What could I have taken photos of at Chase Field and used in my brochure? During my timeline, what were the restrictions on others' photos? Once I understood the legal ramifications behind the photos, how would I cite them if necessary? I had to understand that as well as proper citation for the text I use. Finally, I developed an understanding for each genre's conventions and structure. During my storyline, I had to use quick bits of information that would stay in the viewer's head. My timeline allowed me to structure steps in a linear way, and finally, the brochure required I integrate visual properties into my writing. Each genre required I develop grammar, punctuation, spelling skills, which I'll continue to work on, as well as many of the other outcomes long after graduation. My main objective in majoring in technical communications was to become a better writer. I'm proud to say I have improved dramatically from when I began my writing courses. With the help of my professors, peers, and hard work, I'm happy in how I progressed. I also understand that I have a lot to work on still, and that becoming a better writer requires practice and time. Coming from a non English speaking household, I'm excited to see how far I've come and know I'll only continue to improve. I like to thank all of my professors for each offering something different that I'll take away with me after graduation. From my first course to this capstone, I've had nothing but great instructors. I'd finally like to thank my friends and family for encouraging me along this journey. Thank you. And thank you for watching this presentation.